Hey, brother.
Hey, brother.
So, in our first episode, we were talking about the Titanic, how it's impossible to do a sequel for the Titanic.
Yeah.
So we wrote one. While we were talking about that, we mentioned Thelma and Louise, how it's impossible for Thelma and Louise to have a sequel.
Right.
But we didn't. we didn't really broach that topic. We didn't really dive into it.
Yeah. Okay. I think I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So wait. Yeah. Okay. So you're thinking of actually doing a sequel for Thelma and Louise? Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not possible, and that makes me want to try it.
Yeah. I enjoy the exercise. Eventually,
Yeah.
Eventually I think we're going to hit a wall, though.
Maybe. It might
yeah.
be with Thelma and Louise. That might be where we hit the wall.
Yeah. Eventually, we're going to drive ourselves off a cliff. So let me see if I can remember Thelma and Louise. So Gina Davis is Thelma. Susan Sarandon is Louise. Is that correct?
I think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thelma has Shooter McGavin as her husband. That's Gina Davis. Shooter McGavin's her husband, and he's kind of a jerk. I don't remember if he's like abusive. He might be a little bit abusive. I know but he's like a total jerk.
Yeah. I remember him being a jerk.
Harvey Keitel is the detective who's chasing them at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, Susan Sarandon, Louise, shoots a guy who's trying to assault Thelma in outside of a bar. And this is what causes them on their road trip to now become fugitives.
Right. Yeah. They're on the run now.
Somewhere along the way they meet Brad Pitt.
Yes.
And this is actually what launched Brad Pitt's career.
Yeah.
A career launched by this dude taking his shirt off, basically.
Yes.
But he's actually a really good actor.
Yeah.
On top of it as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Lots of careers have been launched by people who work out and look good with their shirt off.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can remember. The end of this movie, they actually do drive off of the Grand Canyon. They drive their car off the Grand Canyon.
Is it the Grand Canyon? I know they drive off a cliff. Is it the Grand Canyon?
I think in the movie it's supposed to be the Grand Canyon. I doubt in real life it's the Grand Canyon, though. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Because I would assume it's much harder to actually be allowed to drive a car off of the Grand Canyon, where that car's gonna crash eventually. So
I think Evel Knievel did it once, but
I don't think Evel Knievel did it. I think he had to do a different thing because they wouldn't let him do the Grand Canyon.
Captain Robbie Knievel, Evel Knievel's son.
Robbie did it. Grand Canyon.
I think he. Yeah,
really?
I think he jumped the Grand Canyon. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they let him do it because I feel like they don't want to mess up the Grand Canyon because it's this iconic thing.
I don't know. Knievel's pretty iconic too.
Yeah.
Okay, so this movie it ends with them driving off a cliff.
Does it show them? I don't think it shows them crash. Though.
It doesn't show them crash.
Right.
It just they drive off and it cuts or it fades out. So they could still be alive.
Yes, they could still be alive. So So here's, I would assume here's how you start the movie. It'd be something like Harvey Keitel being like, okay, let's get down there, to the bottom so we can see the wreckage and recover the bodies. Other than some guy being like, we can't get down there, The guy's got some little cigar in his mouth or something,
Toothpick.
He's wearing sunglasses that are this big.
Yeah.
We can't get down to the bottom of that thing, And then he's
I want you to
why
search
not?
every outhouse, every back house, every ground.
So they can't actually get down there. It's going to take them 3 months because it's the whatever season, the rainy season's coming. And you can't go down there because it'll flood or something stupid,
Okay, yeah.
This doesn't have to be real, but the audience will believe it because this movie was made in the 90s or something like that.
It was made in the 90s, yeah.
This was before Google, so the sequel would have been made before Google where people could actually check this stuff.
Yeah, it'd be a whole decade where people were like, you can't go down the Grand Canyon certain times a year. They're like, no, that was just...
Yeah, no, I saw it in a movie.
Stupid myth.
Yeah, I saw it in a movie.
From Thelma Louise 2.
So then we show then we would show them after they have that whole conversation. We actually show them going off, and they actually hit like a ramp in the canyon, like perfectly, where they kind of are doing a bounce, but now they're like bouncing down this thing, you know? Then they kind of go off of it again into the water. So their car hits the water, you know, right? And they're like, they're knocked out, but the car is floating in the water going downstream.
Okay.
At some point they wake up. They wake up and they're like, oh my gosh, like we did, you know, and they actually survived this thing.
Yeah.
So now they're going downstream now. And like if they were walking it would probably take them like weeks to get out of there.
No,
but because their car's stuck in like the rapids,
I lost you.
They're kind of cutting that. Oh, you lost me?
Yeah, okay, you're back. You're back.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Because the car is stuck in you know, the rapids, they're just like cruising down this thing, hitting rocks, you know, like the car's spinning out and stuff like that. Both of them are all freaking out, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing.
Brad Pitt's in the back seat for some reason
he's
with his shirt off.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Cowboy hat.
I think he should come back into the movie at some point.
I think so too. Yeah.
And
because by this point, I mean, not that it would still be the 90s, but at this point, he's bigger now. Like, he's a bigger name.
Yes, he's a much bigger name. They almost would have to have him come back at this point.
Yeah.
So eventually they end up, actually the car just crashes on some bank.
Yeah.
And now they're like getting out of the car, and now they're just on the side of the river, and they have to actually walk out of there.
Okay.
And they have no idea how long this is going to take to do it.
Yeah.
And now we're cutting back to, now Harvey Keitel's with Shooter McGavin, telling him that, like, she's gone. She's dead.
Yeah.
Like, the coroner, we can't get down there. The coroner pronounced them dead at the scene. And she was like, where's the body? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I need to have a Christian burial. I don't know what religion this guy is, but there's some issue that he has with it, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going down there. So now
he's coming down there himself.
Yeah, so now he cares, now that they don't know, now that he thinks she's dead, now he kind of cares. Okay. And at least is like, I at least need to take care of the remains, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So no one's looking for them, though. Everyone just thinks they're dead. Now we cut back to them, and now they're like finally making their way out of this canyon. Yeah. And now they're kind of like, and they re-find a street, and they're just like trying to hitchhike out of there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think it would be funny if while they're hitchhiking, they get picked up by a police officer. You know?
Okay.
And they're just kind of like...
Does the police officer like not recognize them?
So, yeah, like this could even be a completely different police force too.
Okay.
Or it could even be... Yeah, it could be one of the police officers who was there.
Yeah.
Who just never really saw them. Yeah, like he never really saw them, their faces. But he just knew like they were chasing two women, and now they're pronounced dead at the scene. And now like he's used to like picking up people at the bottom of the canyon who just went for a hike and it got a little bit out of control.
There were two women that were pronounced dead at the Grand Canyon. Yeah, here are two women that looked like they had a near-death experience at the Grand Canyon. I'm not going to make that connection.
Yeah. But it could be a completely different police force, you know, where like this is just a different cop. He has no idea really what's necessarily been going on. But while he's like driving them, he's like, you know, I heard like there's two women who drove over the side of the canyon. You know, like he could be talking to them that while he's like kind of giving them a ride to like the motel or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And they're just like, wow, that sounds crazy, you know. Like, what kind of a crazy like chick would do that? They can kind of have those moments. So he drops them off at the hotel. I think at some point they have to hook back up with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to know like what genre this film should be. You know,
I mean,
like,
the way that you're explaining it sounds like it could almost stay this kind of the same genre. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like they're still on the run and they're still kind of having like close run-ins, and they're just trying to avoid the cops again. which
Yes.
like would make that more tense. Like the fact that they actually do get picked up by a cop.
Yeah.
And at some point, they catch wind of the fact that that Shooter McGavin's looking for them too.
Yeah.
And he would have to see them at some point.
Yes.
Like, and whether it's like clear or not, it would have to be like, I don't think they're dead. I don't think they're down there, so that he can continue his search.
Yes.
So now they're trying to avoid both the cops and Shooter McGavin.
Yes. So yeah, maybe they start like kind of going on like a bank robbing spree, where they're kind of like they're going from bank to bank robbing banks. Shooter's driving down to look for them, and he stops at like a Piggly Wiggly's or something like that to get like a hamburger. I don't know what they serve at Piggly Wiggly's, but it sounds like a funny name. He stops there and he sees them exiting like a bank.
Okay.
And he's just like, what?
Yeah.
And they kind of see him, and now he's just like, and now there's this car chase of them, like him trying to catch up with them and him kind of like skidding out and losing them.
Still eating his burger.
Yeah, he's
just like
some soda.
Doesn't want to
with the straw. And then at some point they hook up with Brad Pitt, and I think it would be interesting if Brad Pitt was actually the same character that he is in Ocean's 11.
What?
He's like Dusty, Rusty from Ocean's 11, and now he's getting his training on how to be a thief. His early years from them. Like I wouldn't ever mention that, but I would kind of have him start playing a little bit that character where like he's learning the trade from them,
Yeah.
And then the you know what another issue is that we're having though, because like we would have to have this sequel happen like in the 90s, because today no one would believe that Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon survived at the bottom of the Grand Canyon
for decades.
For like 30 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think they go on a bank spree with Brad Pitt. Then eventually, I would say, I think eventually Shooter actually ends up capturing Susan Sarandon, Luis's character.
Yeah.
He actually captures her. Then I think, this is like me thinking of like the ending now.
Okay.
Shooter gets her. Then Gina Davis. I think we just lost each other again.
Yeah. No, you're back.
Okay.
You can keep going.
Then Gina Davis turns herself in, and they're just now like in prison together.
Okay.
And they're like, and I think it'd be kind of funny, like ending the movie of them in prison together, like sitting at the table together, like telling the story to the other like female inmates that are like sitting with them, and them all just kind of like laughing about it.
Yeah.
And like that's how it ends. But Brad Pitt never gets captured, but he kind of learns like, oh, like this is a dangerous line of business. I really need to kind of like up my game, and maybe like you end like Brad Pitt like sitting at like a poker table.
Yes, he was kind of their apprentice.
Yes.
So like he's learned
his early
what
days,
to do, what not to do, like by having them as mentors.
Yeah, early days of like being a criminal.
Yeah. Wow. I do like that. I think that I would change the banks to like liquor stores.
Okay. Something more.
Because like yeah, something that's like, because they weren't like career criminals. Originally, but it's like they're maybe they're getting better at it. But yeah, that's not far off from like anything I might have come up with. Like I like short of just changing it to sci-fi right off the bat and having the car fly away.
Yeah, like the alien ship like gets them with the tractor beam. Boom.
Yeah. Like keeping it the same genre, like I probably would have done something along the same lines where it's just like they, land on like a tree on the way down or something like that.
Yeah.
So like it kind of cushions their fall, but they're hurt.
Yeah. You know what I think would be kind of funny online with the liquor store? I think the first liquor store they rob, they should be like, we're just taking what we need. So they're not taking the whole register. You know? And they're just doing the whole like, we just need like so we can get a motel room, like we're gonna get one of these Snicker bars, and like they're kind of like doing that, like just $45, $45, and then they're like, well, we also need maybe like this hat, like $50. They kind of do that thing, Yeah. And like it's kind of a mess. then like the next liquor store they go into, they're like, we're just gonna just give us the whole register, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
They just give up on that, like trying not to be like a full-blown criminal, like stealing everything. They're like, just give us the register, forget it, you know?
They're like try and justify that too. They'll be like, the more we take from this liquor store, the less likely we'll take from another liquor store.
Yeah. And then the next one, they're just like, we're sorry, we're, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We blew it on something stupid, you know, like, oh yeah, we went to a bar yesterday and this one, you know, bought rounds for the whole bar. They're like telling the story, you know, like how they blew the money from the last liquor store, why they have to rob this one now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of funny.
Wow. Yeah, you know, totally doable. We could do the Thelma and Louise sequel.
Yeah.
No problem. Well, I'm satisfied with that. Do you know who John Millius is?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this story that I've always loved that John Millius did. He did Conan the Barbarian, and he wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to play Conan, and the producer, whoever the producer was, did not want Arnold Schwarzenegger to play Conan because like he was inexperienced, he wasn't an actor, he didn't want like some no name in there. So like the guy got all like huffy, he like stood up on his desk and like put his finger in John Milius's face and was like, no, like anybody other than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And John Milius was like, okay. And, like producer sat down, put his feet up on the desk and said, okay, who do you want to play Conan the Barbarian? And John Milius said, Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
And he kind of like, the producer just kind of like conceded and was like, all right, fine, like pick whoever you want.
Yeah.
And I always loved that story, but it also kind of made me think of like what Conan the Barbarian might be like if Dustin Hoffman played him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so are you going there? You want to go there?
I want to be pulling a Millius a little bit here, where it's like, does it change the story at all by changing the actor that drastically? Like here's an actor who could never play the character. Yeah. Does it have to change the story?
I'm not sure if it changes the story.
Right.
The issue with the current Conan the Barbarian movie is I'm probably saying that wrong. Is that Arnold Schwarzenegger is such a figure. Yeah. That tells half the story. Just him shirtless. Once again, shirtless. What's with you and the shirtless guys today?
Man, I am on one. You know?
Arnold Schwarzenegger just being him tells the story of like why he's so dominant as a fighter.
Yeah.
So I think Dustin Hoffman, it really is like impossible, which is why John Milius probably said it. Like you can't do Dustin Hoffman. The guy's like 5'2" or something like that, you know. He's like 115 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah. He can still crush his enemies, though.
So, yeah, he can't do it. Yeah, not with his bare hands, though.
I can crush my enemies.
Yeah, if I had Conan...
I can crush my enemies. Yeah. You hear the lamentation of their women.
Yeah, so how would you now convert this to a Dustin Hoffman Conan? I think you tell the same story.
Yeah. He's just got to be like sneaky now, you know, like it's more like a stealth mission.
What if you could do it sneaky?
Where he's sneaking into the like whatever the palace or whatever to try and get his he's just, you know, he's more like the sneaky thief who's kind of like I'm trying to think of a different word other than sneak so I don't keep saying sneak, but yeah,
sly.
He's just like, what?
Sly? He's a sly.
I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that word. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But no, yeah, like I think that that would be the main difference, and then he would keep his shirt on too, obviously.
So you would change, So you would basically kind of like change the character though, because Conan is from the books though.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
So what I'm thinking is like you can't change the character. So like, have you seen First Night with Richard Gere?
Yes.
So Richard Gere isn't like a huge guy.
Right.
He's a little bit smaller. He fights, but then he fights like very kind of like ferociously.
Yeah.
Like where he's got this weird, like he's in control, but he's also like when he's on the attack, he's outlandishly on the attack, like just disarming guys and So I think you kind of do that where you make like you make it where yes, he's a smaller guy. Yeah. Because he's been like a slave and he's malnourished. And you could even go into like that a little bit. Like he's a slave, he's been malnourished, he's been mistreated. Yeah. But there's a fire inside of him. And so he's got he's got a sword that probably looks big for him. Kind of like where I think Arnold's sword even looked big for Arnold. Yeah. And Arnold's huge. So you give him a sword that looks big for him. Then I think you just make him a very ferocious fighter. You can take his shirt off because he was young at the time. And he probably looked okay with his shirt off. Did he take his shirt off in The Graduate?
Probably.
We saw him shirtless in The Graduate, right? Once again.
I would say so.
You got your actor's shirt off.
The Graduate even... The Graduate even... like, they were looking for, like, a Robert Redford type. They were looking for someone who's, like, 6'1", 6'2". Yeah. Like, blonde hair, like, he's supposed to be, like, a star athlete in college. Yeah. So Dustin Hoffman can pull off that kind of like character where it's like, oh, I don't look anything like the character I'm supposed to play, but I could pull it off. Like, like he might just be that good that you really don't have to change Conan the Barbarian too much.
I think he could potentially pull it off. He's already wiry at that age, where he's got that energy. Yeah. Then I think you give him a sword that looks menacing, and then you can even have him fight bigger opponents, but he's a little bit faster, more ferocious, and like he just wants it more, and maybe he's a little less concerned for like his own safety and well-being. Yeah. Because if he gets killed, fine. If he gets captured, he's gonna be returned to slavery. He doesn't want that. Yeah. And he wants revenge so badly that he's just like, that's all that's driving him. So it would be, it wouldn't be the Conan from the books, because I think from the books, Conan actually is more like that, is the Arnold, like someone like Jason Momoa plays Conan, and they're just huge guys. So they fit the character, but it wouldn't. It would just be a different thing. But I don't know. I do think Hoffman could pull it off.
Yeah. He is a good enough actor. Yeah. He could be completely different.
Yeah. John Milius almost got himself into trouble there. Yeah. If the guy was like, no, actually, I think Dustin Hoffman could pull off. Yeah. Could maybe pull it off. I do think Arnold
should have picked a worse actor.
Yeah, Arnold was the better choice, though. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's not,
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. If we were to be pulling a Millius, let's pick a character. Let's say Spider-Man.
Okay. Yeah.
And let's say that we're pitching Spider-Man to somebody, to a producer. Yeah. Marvel, and we say we want Tom Holland to play Spider-Man, and they say no, anybody but Tom Holland. Right. And we want to be pulling a Milius. Yes. So, who is it that we say that could just never play Spider-Man?
Yeah. Who's the guy that they would never pick for Spider-Man if we gave them the name? Yeah. Yeah, I think I almost feel like it would be an opposite thing, because like what Milius did was like Conan's supposed to be kind of like a bodybuilder, and he picked the most unbodybuilder small guy ever. And for Spider-Man's supposed to be kind of like a scrawny, intellectual, nerdy type. Yeah. So you'd almost have to pick someone who just couldn't even do that. Like he's just too big, like. What?
Do I have to say? Or are you going to say the exact same name that I'm about to say?
Who are you about to say?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, well, I was thinking like today. Who's the guy today?
Oh.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger could not do it from back. Yeah, if we're picking Arnold from back then, he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking more like an actor today who doesn't like where you're not pulling a like George Clooney where it's like no, he's too old, to play it.
No.
Like,
Okay. Yeah.
Like Timothy.
They'd have to.
Timothy. What is his name? Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
He could do it.
He could do it
because
yeah.
he's
the
small
right
and
type.
he could kind of play the like that meek kind of insecure, intelligent person.
Yeah, he could do that.
He couldn't play Conan though.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Who's somebody who couldn't do it? I think maybe like Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. That's an interesting pick.
Yeah, I think he's a little too big, and I think he plays a little too suave. Like he's never played someone not comically suave.
Well, I mean that's not, and I mean he wasn't always in shape. Like he was kind of a kind of a dork in like Parks and Rec. Are we talking about the same Chris? There's so many Chris's.
Yes, yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy Chris.
Yeah. No, yeah. He was like in Parks and Rec. He was kind of more like a but kind of dorky.
But he's big. Spider-Man, I think, is always supposed to be kind of like on the slenderer side.
Yeah.
Like he's a more slender, smaller character to emphasize the fact that like he's using intelligence and.
Yeah,
and those.
I thought that you were like gonna go like bulkier, bigger, like Chris Hemsworth or Jason Momoa.
Oh yeah, Well, I didn't. Yeah,
big giant spiders.
I think once you play Conan though, or Superman, you get excluded, or Batman, you get excluded from Spider-Man. If you have the characteristics to play those characters, I wouldn't really think of them, but it's tough because like once again, there's not a lot of young actors anymore.
Right.
So it was something I was noticing like maybe 10 years ago, where like the biggest names in Hollywood were still like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Ago. Yeah, they were still the same people that were like big names like 20 years ago when I was a kid. Yeah. And now I'm an adult and I'm like, it's been like, these guys have been like the biggest stars for like 20, 30 years, which is fine and normal, but then I couldn't really come up with like who's the big people that are younger that feel like, oh, these people are big and they're up and coming
stars.
And it's like and they've gotten less. There's been less and less of them over the years, so it would be difficult to pick a Spider-Man because I don't know. There's not a whole lot of young actors.
It might be why I immediately went to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
it's like an older guy, but like Arnold in his prime. And like what's funny is that Arnold in his prime playing Spider-Man, it wouldn't be good, but I would still totally watch it and like have a ton of fun watching it. Yeah, and like he could still say like stick around, but it's like the webs instead of the and, like, it would just be this like big dude who's like running around in a Spider-Man costume, beating the crap out of people and saying bad puns. It's like that would be so much fun.
Yeah. I think if they made it during, if we can pick almost any time frame for it, I would say like the worst pick for Spider-Man would be Bruce Willis during the Die Hard years. Yeah. Because he's someone that would be like, that's huge. Like, oh, Die Hard just came out. Bruce Willis is like the biggest actor out there. He's the hottest thing there is. Yeah. He's not big. People were actually kind of, I think, like mocking Die Hard before it came out because they were used to seeing like Stallone and Schwarzenegger doing action films. Yeah. And now you've got Bruce Willis, who's not a bodybuilder, who doesn't look the part, doing the action. He just looks like
some guy.
Yeah. So like, I think he would be an absolutely terrible Spider-Man. Like, absolutely terrible. Where like, it could have potentially happened if they made a Spider-Man back then. Where they're like, get the biggest star, throw him in the costume, have his origin story,
Yeah, he's New York. Spider-Man's from New York. It'll be perfect.
Yeah, he'll keep the accent, Have him say some smart guy stuff, and then, he could have some lines in it too, like, like, it'll be fun. Come out to the coast. We'll have a good time. Have one of those, but a Spider-Man version of it.
Spider-Man version of it. Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Stick around.
Climb up some walls.
Yeah.
And swing. Yeah.
Stick around. Stick around.
Stick around. That's a great line.
Yeah, it is good.
Just used in the wrong movie. It should have been used in the Arnold Schwarzenegger Spider-Man movie.
But I don't know. All time, the worst person to choose for anything other than a Danny DeVito role is Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito is the worst person to pick.
Yeah.
For any role other than a Danny DeVito role.
He's not who you want to pick to play
a
character from a comic book, with the exception of the Penguin.
Yeah.
Which he did an amazing job.
He was great in it. Yeah.
He's a great actor.
He's I don't know if people realize how good some of the actors are who don't look like Greek statues, whatever, who just who don't end up looking like, like Ryan Gosling or Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
They're just Adonises, literally.
It's like they'll end up on camera whether they're good at acting or not.
Yes, they're both good, though. They're good actors.
Brad Pitt takes his shirt off. He ends up in Thelma Louise. It doesn't matter if he's a good actor yet.
Yeah.
Luckily he was.
Oddly enough, though, Danny DeVito takes his shirt off and he ends up on Friends.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Danny DeVito's a brilliant actor.
Yeah, Danny DeVito's great, and Dustin Hoffman's great, and Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci is another one who's just absolutely great. But they don't have that movie star looks.
Right.
They're not Dean Martin good looking. I'm showing my age now by going back. Going back in time. They're not Cary
Going
Grant.
back to before you were born.
Yeah,
I'm showing my age now. You're talking about the 60s.
They're not Cary Grant good looking.
Right.
I mean, these guys. Yeah.
He's no Douglas Fairbanks.
Yeah. Exactly.
The Danny DeVito Spider-Man movie, though, I think I feel like I've seen Danny DeVito in a Spider-Man costume. It might have been like an SNL sketch or something. I'll have to look that up later. Yeah. Because he may have actually played Spider-Man. Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about the idea versus the execution. And this is something that you talk about. But we're writers. We tell people that we write, and everybody tells you an idea when they hear it, because everybody has an idea. And a lot of people, if they want you to help them with something, they want you to write something, they'll come up with an idea. And I think that there's this misconception that that the idea, coming up with the idea, is the hard part. I feel like a lot of people feel like if I come up with a good idea, then I've done a lot of the work for the writer, who now just has to bring my brilliant idea to life.
Yeah.
And we tend to think that the execution's more important than the idea. Like, a good execution can turn a bad idea into a good script.
Yeah.
And the example I use is Speed, where anytime somebody says Speed's a terrible movie, what they say is what the movie's about. It's oh, it's terrible, it's stupid, it's a bomb on a bus. It's it's a stupid idea. It's a great movie. Yeah. It's a really good script, really well written, extremely well executed, and largely probably because Joss Whedon wrote all the dialogue.
Yeah.
So they probably did have a bad script because it was a bad idea, and then they gave it to a good writer, and he made a great script out of it. So I had this idea for, I call it the horrible idea. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to pitch you an idea that is purposefully bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I want to see if we can make a watchable movie out of it. Can we make a watchable script out of it? The execution's more important than the idea. Yeah. I think we can prove that.
Okay.
Would you like to hear my horrible idea?
Oh, okay. So you have the horrible idea.
I have a horrible idea. Yes. I haven't told you what it is yet.
Right.
But it's not very much. It's not very well developed. But
yeah. Okay.
It's not supposed to be.
Hit me with it.
Okay. So we follow our protagonist. Mm-hmm. He is a musician. He is a jazz musician, a saxophone player.
Okay.
and I don't know if he's good at it or not. Doesn't matter. The Earth gets invaded by aliens, zombie aliens. Zombie aliens. They're both
aliens.
Zombies and aliens.
How do they even figure out how to get to the Earth?
Doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. This is a bad idea.
Okay.
So zombie aliens invade.
Yeah.
And he somehow saves humanity with the power of his music.
With the saxophone, he saves
with his saxophone,
the planet.
He saves the planet. That is my horrible idea.
What genre is it? Or am I allowed to just choose what genre it is? Or do I not even worry about that?
I think I give you the concept. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, then you just
we can do whatever we need to make it a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think it'd be more challenging if we make it like a serious sci-fi.
Yeah. Here's how I would start this thing.
Okay.
He's a jazz musician, but he's not very good. So what he is good at is playing like, for some reason he just has like a lot of like endurance, and he can play kind of like a melody over and over and over again. So he's almost in that like learning phase.
Okay.
Of playing the instrument.
Yeah.
So he kind of like he's got like a melody of like, you know, and then, right. So like,
yeah.
So he's out there trying to like kind of join like a band.
Right.
And he's trying to play like, okay, here's the like song we're playing, and he's playing along, but he's not great at it. He actually like struggles, kind of improvising. He can't really read music either, so he's having difficulty with that. So he has all these issues, and they're basically like he keeps getting the axe from being in the bands.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So he's a lovable loser who just cannot get a break.
Okay. Yes.
There's a couple ways we can go with the aliens. One way we can go is that like there is an intelligence, and they're sending the zombie aliens as their sort of like their militia force.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, that this is their ground force that just kind of comes in, weeds things out, where now they can kind of get a sense of like how sophisticated are these creatures.
Right. Yeah. These are the expendable pawns that get sent out first.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're not too concerned. The second one is that that you almost take it like this is maybe some weird species of alien that, like, here would be the backstory that maybe you just never hear, or they can maybe discover it like on the ship at some point. But there's this species of alien that is basically like this. They're just like a humanoid species, but they're not very intelligent. They're very zombie-like. And they colonize their planet, but because they're so good-hearted, they just put them on spaceships and just ship them into space, and they accidentally now have crashed, got stuck in Earth's orbit and crashed into Earth's orbit, and now like their ship crashed, and now they're just flooding out of the ship. And this wasn't supposed to happen. They're just supposed to be like living on this spaceship that's supposed to be able to sustain them. But these aliens didn't want them on the planet that they're gonna inhabit it because they're dangerous and they're annoying,
Yeah. Okay. There is a third way that we could go about it.
Okay.
I like that one though. The third way is that there's a ship, or maybe like several ships full of like intelligent aliens.
Yeah.
And then they go through some kind of like radiation field. Similar to like what happened to in Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's this radiation field that like has killed them, and then they've come back to life. So now these ships are like unmanned. So they were intelligent, and they died in space, and now they're like zombies, and they're like crashing into Earth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like that's the third way that we could go about it.
That's pretty cool. There's a fourth way.
The fourth way is
these aliens didn't calculate properly, And they didn't realize the effect our gravity would have on them. And our gravity is actually slowing them down because it's heavier than it used to, and it's actually slowing their brain function down. And it's so they were intelligent and peaceful with good intentions, but now that they've come down to Earth, it's actually slowed down their frontal lobe, where the only thing left is like their lizard brain, and now all they want to do is kill us because they're aggressive. And without their frontal lobe like functioning properly, they can't override that thing that they're used to being able to override.
Yeah.
You know?
Huh.
That's also another, like, interesting way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
we can actually make this horrible idea kind of interesting.
Yeah. And then, then comes the question of, like, you know, so how does the saxophone player play in to now he's got a saxophone?
That's the question, because the thing is that he's not just saving the planet or whatever, the town, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's saving them with his saxophone.
Yes, he's got to be using the saxophone I mean, this is almost like a Pied Piper type story where he's actually using the saxophone and maybe like his little melody. His melody, for some reason, just like it gives them better clarity, or like he can herd them.
if it's like similar to the sound that their ship makes.
Yeah.
Then like it could be like a Pied Piper thing where like he realizes like they're drawn to it, and so he's able to like kind of herd them back into their ship.
Yeah.
Just by using his melody.
Yeah. That's not bad. Yeah. Yeah, it's the saxophone. I mean, you could also have it where like these guys are just, let's just say they are just like a herd of just zombie aliens that have been like sent off of their planet, you know, because they're annoying, and they crash into Earth, and now they're trying to eat and kill us.
They're annoying.
Yeah, now they try and eat and kill us. Then this guy's saxophone, he's hitting a certain melody or a certain note. Yeah. That ends up like, you know, either killing them or putting them to sleep or something like that. You know. Yeah. But it's a hard note to hit, and even though he's not a great jazz saxophone player, he can hit this note, this really, really rare note to hit. Yeah. You know? And you can't just like produce like a speaker and play the note. Like the fact that it's coming out of like that brass saxophone is causing a certain frequency, a certain resonance frequency. Yeah. That if he hits it right, he actually can just like knock these guys out. Yeah. Yeah.
Or bring them back.
And there'll be this great scene where like his girlfriend has this, you know, he's like dating this girl, and they have this moment where she's like, "You're not going anywhere, you know, like you can't. Why don't you just give up on like the saxophone and work at, you know, my dad offered you a job, you know, at Kinko's as manager at Kinko's. He's got the same job." He's got the same job as the Joker. He works with the Joker.
He works with the Joker. Yeah.
And then there's this cool scene where like now the aliens are coming after her, just a horde of them. She's like in a corner, you know, and he comes in like no shirt on, of course.
Right. Yeah. No, you know, he comes in like that guy from the Lost Boys. He's just oiled up.
Player from the Lost Boys. Yeah, the saxophone player from the Lost Boys. That was such a great scene.
He just comes in. His girlfriend's like, "I found a real man, a real saxophone player, and it's him."
He never wears a shirt. Shirts are for losers. And then he just comes in, hits the note, and they all just drop, like, bro, you know? Yeah. And then he's there, like, you know, with, like, backlit, where you kind of see the shadow, maybe a little bit of mist for some weird reason, you know?
Hair blowing in the wind. Yeah, he's got Kenny G hair.
He doesn't have a shirt on, but he has a vest on, and his vest is just kind of, like, blowing in the wind, you know? Yeah.
No shirt, a vest, a belt, no pants.
A belt.
Cowboy boots.
No pants. Cowboy boots. And then his name should be like something like Donnie. Something where like when she says it, you know, like Donnie, you know?
Yeah. It's got
and then, and then he like grabs her now, and they're heading back towards the car, and every time there's an alien, he's just like, you know, like hits the note like meow, you know? Yeah. You could just see the vibration of the saxophone as he hits it, you know?
Yeah.
He's got this rare ability to hit this one note on the saxophone.
Yeah.
And that's what makes, and now he's like the hero of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it lands him a record deal where it's just like, this melody saved the planet. And it's like, everybody wants to buy that. Like, where it's just like, this is the song that saved the planet. It's the best single in the world.
Yeah. Like now now it's like everyone would, he could just, like, the Rolling Stones are up there playing a song. They're like, we're going to bring Donnie on. Everyone's like, yeah, Donnie, Yeah, Donnie comes up like, yeah, like, just, they like write a song. They write a song so that Donnie can hit his, like, and everyone's like, yeah, and, like, it'd be great because they could be all, and there can be, like, one alien in the crowd that's just, like, that's kind of, like, passive, and it just, like, falls over. This would not be a good movie, though, right?
It's totally watchable. I would watch it. I think it depends on the genre.
Yeah.
So if it is kind of like, I mean, I don't even know what I would compare it to.
Army of Darkness?
It would have to be kind of like, yes, that is exactly right. It would have to be like an action horror comedy.
Yeah.
And in the vein of like Army of Darkness. And it would be that could be like a cult classic right there.
Yeah.
It's just like Donnie and his saxophone, and he's just like wiping out aliens with this resonance frequency that's like similar to some tone from their ship.
Yeah.
And because they're undead, it just like,
Yeah. Well, Shaun of the
knocks
Dead.
them out.
Now I'm thinking of Shaun of the Dead too, where Shaun of the Dead, they actually play it pretty straight in Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's difficult. I think it's a little bit easier to do that, to do a comedy where you're playing it straight. But typically, I think it works better too.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. I think that it would have to be played straight.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't be some like goofy, like, we realize that this is a comedy and we realize that this is a horrible idea, because then it would really be a bad movie.
Yeah.
Like, it would have to be played dead serious. So maybe like Shaun of the Dead might be more the way that you lean rather than like Army of Darkness.
Yeah. The cool thing about
Army of Darkness,
Yeah.
I feel like Army of Darkness could get away with it because like the monsters were still actually kind of scary looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, dude, this is actually kind of terrifying, but it's like, it's hysterical. But this, like we'd need to like make sure that production value is high and that it's being played very straight.
Yeah. The cool thing about Shaun of the Dead is that the kind of like theme of the story, like leading into the zombies, feels like he's living a zombie-like existence. Like it mirrors what's going to be happening later on. And I'm like, so I'm trying to think, like, how does this mirror the fact that there's alien zombies crashing into the planet about to take over? Like, is there a way of actually having him mirror that? Or like kind of like your first 15, 20 minutes before it really ramps up and you're like, this is a alien zombie movie where now we're dealing with this thing, You feel like there's something out of this world and kind of a dead end about what his existence and what he's doing.
I mean, maybe if we made him a good musician, but he's not famous, he's not recognized.
Yeah.
Then it could be kind of like the vultures of the music industry that are kind of like coming in and like telling him he's not worth anything and telling him that he's terrible, but still like kind of taking his music.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of the invaders that are just like,
like
they're coming in and screwing everything up because they're not creatives.
Yeah.
Like they're not actually producing anything. They're just kind of, taking the life out of the music.
Yeah, so he would be, so the story would get changed where he's more of a like studio musician.
Yeah.
Where he's actually very good, but
he's like trying to get recognition.
Yeah. And
he's getting,
then he'll, like, they'll be like, all right, we need like a saxophone part here. And he'll like do it, improvise the whole thing, like write that whole section. But then he doesn't get writing credit. Like he'll get his
yeah.
check. He'll get his check, and it'll be like less than he thought he was gonna get,
Yeah.
or like less
Yeah.
than they said.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "What is this?" And like, "We got a gig for you next week. Take it or leave it," because there's nothing
Yeah.
he can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's just like, and his girlfriend's like, manager at Kinko's,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
he's just like, I don't want to do that though. Like I'm a good musician. I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm getting kind of like, I'm not getting recognized as the hero that I am in the studio.
Right.
And these
right.
guys are coming in, these invaders are just like basically stealing my stuff and ruining everything around me,
Yeah. Yeah.
Then when the alien comes, now it's like, now he can use his talents, and now everyone has to recognize it because he's the guy actually saving their lives.
Yeah.
And now
his talent is so big, it's so high caliber that it like supersedes.
What do you do? Do you have a scene where that same guy who kind of like screwed him over, where there's a zombie
The guy
coming
from
after
the Lost
this?
Boys?
No. The guy who screwed him over, in the record deal guy who screwed him over, who like shorted him on the check
Yeah.
and didn't give him writing credit, where now there's zombies coming after this guy,
Yeah.
And he's like, help, And then he's just
like,
kind of like,
no.
yeah, like maybe he could play a note like, bam, like, and direct it. Now he's gotten kind of good at it. He directs it, like hits a zombie down, boom,
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, like, it's like, Donnie, come on, what are you doing? Do it for the old country. I don't know why everybody all of a sudden turns into a mafioso.
He does it, they both die. He's like, they were both zombies. Something.
Yeah.
It's back to the bad script again.
Do you have him save the guy, or do you have him not save the guy?
I mean, I think that he has to save the guy. I don't know how satisfying it would be. Like, I think that's kind of the juggling act you have to play with those scenes. Is like, it has to be satisfying. If he lets him die, then it's like the guy really needed to have deserved it, and otherwise Donnie's not likable anymore.
The way you can do it.
Yeah.
To have the guy not survive and still have Donnie be likable is Donnie comes in and he's kind of like, I don't want to save this guy, Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he starts doing his thing to save the guy. Then he hears a scream.
Okay.
And he looks and it's the guy's wife, and there's a pack going for the wife.
Ah.
And the guy's like, Donnie, I know I don't deserve it, Donnie, but
Yeah.
And they kind of both understand. And then Donnie will say, something like, something back to him. Something that the guy said, like, hey, here's your money. Donnie's like, you shortchanged me. He's like, it's better than you deserved,
Yeah, yeah.
And Donnie can go back to him and be like, it's better than you deserved, But they both understand, like, okay, you're gonna do me, you're gonna do me this solid, like, I get, I'm gonna get it. And then the guy gets it,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Donnie ends up saving the wife.
Yeah. There's another way that he could end up not surviving and it still not be Donnie's fault.
Okay.
Is that Donnie just doesn't have his saxophone on him.
Oh. Yeah.
So, like, if he has it in the room and then, like, the guy goes in and, like, he's in the room with the saxophone and he's, like, getting cornered.
Yeah.
Then it's, like, Donnie's, like, on the outside and he's, like, play the saxophone. He's, like, trying to get the guy to, like, and he's, like, like, the guy's trying.
There's, like, an extra dude. Donnie pulls a trombone off of the wall. He's, like, trying to hit the note with the trombone.
Yeah.
Man,
that could be an emotional scene.
Yeah, very emotional scene. He's got the flute, the Kenny G flute thing. I can't hit it with this instrument. You can have a scene with Kenny G trying to hit it, and the aliens just grab him because he can't hit the notes.
just rip his hair off.
Yeah, just his hair flying in the air. Yeah. I think it could be. I would say it would be. You could definitely make it a fun movie.
Yeah.
That's like fun to watch, and people enjoy watching it and kind of having a good time and laughing and you know, going through the gamut of emotions.
Could be a cult classic, I think.
Yeah.
In no time. Donnie and his saxophone. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I think those were some good pages. So until I see you next time, Have a good one, brother.
All right, later, brother.